Greetings, nail friends. Started it up a minute early so that everybody has a chance to join. I know it's a busy one today, so greetings, nail friends. It is noon straight up on our... Hi, everybody. So today I have my Pluto Mary mug. And like most nail techs, I got one hand done, but not the other. I couldn't sit at my table any longer than doing one hand. So I feel a lot better, but I couldn't sit any longer than to get one done. So one's done. Hopefully I'll be able to sit enough to do the other one later today. So I want to start out today's show by saying that this experience so far has been fantastic for me. I've made some great contacts around the world with nail techs of all different countries and all different cultures. And much like we find when we communicate around the world, we're not so different once we actually start talking. Our nail brothers and sisters in our communities and around the world all have the same problems and the same types of clients and the same questions and the same everything that we all do. And so for the people that I've reached out to, everybody has been so wonderful and I've gotten such fantastic feedback. I have, I got the sweetest Christmas video greeting this morning from a nail tech on the other side of the world, who I've mentioned in the show before, and I have reached across to different cultures and different countries, and overwhelmingly it's been incredibly positive. And I think once we cut away from the manufacturer and all that stuff, we're all just sort of busy trying to do what we love and make money and doing it. And I think that that's the important thing. We all have the same problems with education. We all have the same problems with manufacturers. We all have the same problems with clients. Nobody knows what to charge. Nobody knows how to make a good everybody has the same questions. And so I'm really glad that I started this prior to the actual live launch of University of Nails, because this has been really eye-opening to help me build the communities so that I can really work with everybody. So that has been fantastic. So for those of you who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas Eve. And I've had some great gifts this week too. I got a present in the mail, non-nail mail, from a nail friend. And so I was going to break down this 10 worst things a nail tech can do. I was going to break it down into a couple different episodes or one a day or whatever. But I decided, since this is my last one of this week and I won't be back on until Monday, that this was too important of a topic to not just cover in a show. Because this article, Michelle Pratt wrote it for Nails Magazine, did a great job, Michelle. This is fantastic journalism. And it's been, it's such a good article that I don't want it to get lost. And so hopefully if I can promote this over the weekend, a lot of people will get to see this and it'll get some more spread, because I think it's really important. So what I'm going to do, because 10 worst things a nail tech can do is a fairly long article. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the mistake, read the "Is This You?" and then we'll talk about it for a second. And if you have anything to chat about, chime on in, chat's on. And then we'll just go from there. So hopefully we'll be able to get in this whole article and some discussion in, less than the 30 minutes I try to keep the show down to. So without any further ado, mistake number one, topping the list, is incorrectly curing the product. It's hard to overemphasize the importance of getting the correct cure, which is why this ranks as the #1 worst thing a tech can do. Curing the nail correctly is vital, and it's the responsibility of the tech to get it right. The two most common culprits for offense are excessive monomer and choosing the wrong nail lamp for the cure, says Doug Schoon, industry chemist, author, and educator. Cured product does not typically cause an allergic reaction. The problem stems from uncured or undercured product being in contact with the skin for prolonged time or repeated exposure to incorrectly cured product. When UV gel is not fully cured, it leaves both the client and the nail tech at a higher risk of developing an allergic reaction. If the product is overcured, the client is more likely to experience damage to her nail plate and nail bed, mainly because the product will be so difficult to remove. That's important. It could also burn the nail bed, which causes it to release the nail plate and could result in an infection. Also note that techs put themselves at risk with uncured product too, because their arm tends to rest in the filings that land on the desk. Over time, this exposure to the skin can cause an allergic reaction. Is this you? If you are not dusting your bulbs daily and dutifully replacing them every 2 to 4 months, it's likely the gel is not curing entirely. Another indicator is that some gel will be soft or will easily file away even after the correct amount of time under the nail lamp. So that's mistake #1. We talk about, I went through a whole episode last week or whatever the week before about all the episodes of Face to Face with Doug Schoon that talk about proper cure in the UV lamp. And so it's really, really important. It's not just undercuring. And to be honest with you, we shouldn't be setting our arms in filing dust anyway. First of all, it looks unprofessional. And secondly, we should take that extra second to just wipe the dust off the table. It's not that hard, and that helps eliminate some of that risk to us. So we need to make sure that we're paying attention to proper curing. It's sort of hard now with the LED lamps because they say they have such a long life. It's going to be really hard to see as they start to die, how we know they're dying. For gel techs who do gels all day, so they use their lamps in a heavy dosage and they use LED, it's going to be really hard to tell when those lamps are dying. Service breakdown is going to be about the only way to be able to tell, I think. For those of us who still, I have both, but who use the old UV style lamp, make sure that you're turning your bulbs over and you're dusting and cleaning out your machine. And again, from a professionalism standpoint, let's face it, people bump their nails in the machine all the time. So when you go to change out your bulbs and you see how nasty your lamp looks inside, your clients are sticking their hands in there. So probably ought to take some time every day when you're closing out your table and wiping your table down and everything to wipe out the inside of your lamp anyway, because then it's not gross for your clients, because that's gross stuff. So I think that probably is takes the cake at mistake #1. Mistake #2, blatantly disregarding directions. We've talked about this a lot with following manufacturer's instructions. Independence is a respectable quality to possess, but when techs go rogue in how they apply and mix their products, calamity can ensue. Schoon has heard more times than he cares to note the words of trailblazing techs who proudly proclaim they've discovered a better way than the manufacturer suggests. They haven't found a better way, says Schoon. What they have found is a way to compensate for something they're doing incorrectly. This cherry picking of top coat, base coat, curing lamp, etc. functions as a band-aid, and it has repercussions. If a client ever takes the tech to court, none of the manufacturers will back the tech up if she doesn't follow their recommended guidelines. Is this you? Do you find yourself in conversation with clients or other techs where you explain that manufacturers advise using certain products in a particular way, but you found other ones that work just as well or better? Parenthesis, then we're talking to you. Parenthesis. So, blatantly disregarding directions. So this is the eternal battle, right? What if the manufacturers aren't providing directions that are responsible? We don't know. But what we do know is that when we're following manufacturers' directions, the liability for problems from use of the product as directed, the liability falls on them, not us. So that's the #1 reason to use your products as directed. So I've talked about like CYO gel and stuff about how it can't possibly work, right? It can't possibly whatever. It can't possibly be safe. It can't possibly cure and whatever. I'll put it through my same product testing that I do with everything else. But at the end of the day, if I decide to use it on a client, I'm going to follow the manufacturer's instructions, which are that it cures in any UV lamp and it will mix with any polish. That way, if something goes wrong, I have the manufacturer's liability to fall on because I followed their directions. So it's one thing if you want to play, budding chemist on yourself or your kids or whatever, but our clients don't pay us to be budding chemists on them. So we probably ought to stick with systems where it counts. This is like that picture that I posted a while back, I think on the University of Nails page, but I'm not sure. That was a quote from Pablo Picasso that says, for you to learn the rules so that you can break them like an artist. And I think that that's a good thing. We know that once we put acrylic down on the nail or gel, it doesn't matter what brand of gel polish we're using on top of it, what kind of top coat we're using on top of it, because that's not part of the system. Because it's over acrylic. But we know that we've been told a million times not to mix different liquid monomer with polymer powder and all of those kind of, matched pair type things. So blatantly disregarding directions. Nobody will go to bat for you if you have a client who sues you and you were using brand A's liquid and brand B's powder and brand C's primer. Nobody's going to cover you. So something to think about. So mistake number 3, ignoring symptoms. Your client complains of sore, throbbing nails. You observe redness, swelling, and unusual peeling. Don't ignore these signs. The body is warning you something is wrong. When techs are educated, they can be like problem-solving detectives, says Schoon. They understand the signs indicate a problem and they can trace their steps back to see what's causing it. We know prolonged and repeated exposure of uncured product on the skin can cause allergic reactions. So when the signs and symptoms of an allergy appear, it's the tech's responsibility to stop business as usual. Do not continue with the nail service until the problem is solved. It could be the tech is filing the nail too thin so the enhancement product is making contact with the nail bed. It may be the product is not fully curing. See mistake number 1. Until you know, stop what you're doing and refer the client to a medical professional. Is this you? Do clients complain of itching, redness, or peeling nails? If so, discontinue services until the client has been seen by a doctor. Begin services again only after the nails and skin are healthy. Also, be aware of your technique to confirm you do not touch the skin during the application process and your product is curing correctly. I have watched 1 million videos on YouTube. I swear, 1 million. And across all different kinds of products, across all different kinds of things. And I can tell you that way too many people are using way too big of a brush for their liquid and powder, and they're using way too much acrylic monomer and getting it on the skin. You can't do that. It's not only is it not good for making the product stick, it's not good for anybody to be just slopping chemicals, liquid monomer, willy-nilly all over the skin. Acetone's different. Our bodies naturally have acetone present. Our bodies do not naturally have, ethyl methacrylate present. So there's a difference. So if a client complains that something's itching or burning or whatever, stop. Stop what you're doing, please. Because somebody else later on down the road is going to have to deal with that client not understanding what's wrong with their nails. Because you didn't stop. So please stop. Please. I beg of you. Okay, mistake number 4. Nothing from anybody, huh? I'm keeping my eye on the chat window here. Very merry. Mistake number 4. Almost halfway done. Blaming the client or the products. It's wrong to blame the client or the products for something that is the fault of the tech. Techs may see that the nails have trouble adhering or they break easily and then rationalize this to a client by explaining, in quotes, gel polish dries the nail out over time. Schoon says dry nails has become tech speak for I damaged your nails, often as a result of overfiling or improper removal. Techs file to remove product, and then they file to add product, says Shun. All that filing causes damage. A dry nail is not the same as a damaged nail. Is this you? If you correctly use brand name products according to the manufacturer's directions, it's rare that your clients will experience problems often attributed to dry nails. If multiple clients complain of the same problem, go back to the basics and evaluate the steps in your application process. This goes back to following manufacturer's directions. Remember at the beginning when shellac first came out and everybody was leaving their French manicure shellac on way too long because they could, and everybody was getting dry spots on their nails because we were leaving the product on too long? Hence that mistake number one, overcuring thing, that, and then everybody was just like, oh, it's shellac. And then there was all these kind of rumors about it, but it actually just turned out that we just actually weren't taking the product off every 2 weeks like we were supposed to, and getting our clients to use their solar oil every day like they're supposed to, and all that. And then Creative Nail Design adjusted. They came back out and reiterated the 14-day power polish thing. So it's an ever-evolving industry. We're part of the fashion industry. It's an ever-changing industry. It's not our clients' fault. I mean, some of it is, of course, if they slam their finger into a door and break off their liquid and powder acrylic nail and it's a bloody break, like way down here or something, well, then of course that's their fault. But most of the time, it's not their fault. Most of the time, it's our fault. There's a center pocket of lifting because we used the wrong liquid to powder ratio and it popped up in the middle and then they got a greenie under there. Or those, those are all the things that are our responsibility. And it's hard when you're going along cranking out 50 hours of nails a week to make sure that you cover all of that. But you have to. So it's not their fault, it's ours. I always tell my clients, if something happens to the nail and it hurt, it was your fault. If it didn't hurt, it was my fault. And that's kind of true. So all of us real nail techs out there, we know who we are. Okay, mistake number 5, and halfway done. I'm on time. Isn't this cool to get this whole thing done? Misusing callus remover. Callus remover is meant for a purpose, to help soften the skin so it can be smoothed down. Calluses shouldn't be removed entirely. That would leave the skin exposed and vulnerable. And more is not better. If it says to leave it on for 5 minutes, don't leave it on for 10, says Shun, and definitely apply it only to the callus. Shun has heard stories of techs wrapping the foot in plastic to make the product work faster, and his skin being compromised between the toes, an area a callus remover should never touch. Is this you? Be honest. If you don't watch the time you let the callus remover sit on the skin, or if you notice the skin surrounding the callus is soft and tender, you likely need to be more cautious about how you're using this powerful product. So, once you have put a product into your service process steps and system, you shouldn't have to watch clock, because everything should go along in the same time frame on every client every time. It should be a part of your process, a part of your system. But you darn well better be watching the clock when you first start using it. So, and if you can't do that, if that's just not how you are and you can't do that, then switch to a callus softener product like Footlogix that doesn't have to be rinsed off, doesn't have to be, it just stays on the skin as sort of like a leave-in conditioner. Because you can't be putting some super strong sodium hydroxide type solution on and then just letting it sit there forever and ever and ever and ever. Can't. It's not good policy. And yeah, callus remover shouldn't be between toes. There's no calluses there. And if there is, you should be able to get them off with just your foot file and a scrub. Use an abrasive scrub and scrub the callus between their toes or whatever. Yeah. Comments? Questions? I'm going to take a breather, take a drink of my coffee on my very merry. Pluto, says Mary. All right. Mistake number 6, diagnosing and prescribing. Boy, doesn't this get talked about a lot on the nail boards, huh? Nail techs beautify, doctors diagnose and prescribe. It's not only dangerous to deliver a diagnosis, it's against federal law. Do you know the difference? Let's start with some basics. No cosmetic product, cream, oil, etc., can make the claim that it can prevent or treat a nail or skin infection. If you recognize dry skin, suggest a product. However, if you recognize that a nail or the skin on the hands and feet are unhealthy, or you see something unusual, recommending treatment is outside the scope of your license. Techs cannot prescribe remedies that would alleviate medical conditions or infections. It is, however, well within your scope of responsibility to say, that does not look healthy and I recommend you consult with your doctor. Is this you? Have you ever told a client that she has a fungus? Have you ever suggested a client use tea tree oil, white vinegar, or some other remedy to clear up a skin condition? You may have crossed a line. So let's think about this. I think that a lot of this is in the wording. If we are selling a product in the salon that is labeled not as a cosmetic, but as a drug for over-the-counter sales, then you are not selling your client anything different than what they would find in the aisle of the store. So, if they have already told you that they've been seen by their doctor and they took some medication and it didn't work, then are there things that you can do? Well, of course, but make sure that you're always saying, I've talked about before, having your cliches. You got to learn them. You got to know them. I say that I see that there's this, thing going on with your toenails here. Have you noticed that before? And if they say, oh yeah, it's been like that for years. I've tried a whole bunch of stuff. I've seen my doctor. Nothing helps. I say, well, I have a product that I've tested on a lot of people that might help with what you've got going on here. I don't know. So if you want to give it a try, here's what it is, and here's how you use it, and here's what you should expect to see. I'm not diagnosing anything. I'm not prescribing anything. It's not a prescription-only medicine. It's something that's labeled for over-the-counter sale with a drug label and everything. So I think that it's back to that knowing the rules, so you know, you make sure that you don't break them. But that's a fine line always. But when in doubt, just refer. Mistake number 7, using too much force. Is that the one I'm on? Yeah. Mistake number 7, using too much force. If gel polish doesn't come off the nail plate easily, do not scrape it off. Period. You can't scrape it off gently enough that you won't damage the nail. Think about it, says Shun. You just soak the nail in remover for 10 minutes. Whatever's left on the nail is going to be extraordinarily tenacious. Techs think by gently scraping the product off, they won't damage the nail, but that's like gently punching someone in the face and saying you didn't cause the bloody nose. If the product doesn't come off easily, by wiping it off, it needs to soak longer. Prevent excessively long soaks by avoiding mistake number 8. So, we'll go through mistake number 8 in a minute, but remembering also mistake number 1 with the proper curing. Is this you? If your clients have white spots on their nail plates that you blame on UV gel nails, we have bad news. You're likely using too much force. It takes only a little bit of pressure to take a dip or chunk out of the nail, explains Shun, and that's what causes the white spots. It's not dehydration. Oil may hide the damage, but it does not fix the problem. So, my thing is that I noticed that what I was doing at the beginning was I was taking the remover off and I wasn't giving the product time to sort of do its own lift and peel away from the nail thing or break and shatter thing. I was just pulling off and immediately trying to scrape, because we didn't know any better. So when you know better, do better. So now when I pull a wrap off, if I just wait a second, it sort of just kind of comes off on its own. And then I'm able to scrub whatever's left of the base coat off with my plastic backed pad soaked in remover. and that gets the rest of it off. So something to consider. And here we go. Mistake number 8, letting clients go too long between services. Here's an interesting fact. It's much easier to remove gel product from the nail the day you apply it than 3 weeks later. The longer it's on the nail, the harder it becomes to remove. Overcuring also makes product removal more difficult. So if techs overcure the product, then schedule appointments too far apart, we have the perfect storm for problem nails. Schedule appointments 2 weeks apart, just as the manufacturer recommends, to reduce the amount of soak time and the pressure you'll need to use for removal. Is this you? Do you tell clients to push their appointment to longer than 2 weeks and then get frustrated with how long it takes to remove the product? If so, you've just learned how to avoid one of the biggest mistakes techs make. So if you think about this perfect storm, now some products that are gel polishes, they are pure gel, no solvents, just pigment and gel formulated to brush on in a bottle. And so for those products, they can go longer than 2 weeks, and the manufacturers say you can go longer than 2 weeks. But if the manufacturer says that it's a weekly product or a 2-week product or whatever, then that's how you need to make sure you use it. Because if we start looking at this improper cure versus letting clients go too long, back to that shellac thing I talked about earlier when people were going 3 and 4 weeks because they could, and then we get there and we have to scrape it off the nail, removing with too much force, and then we wonder why people's nails have any kind of damage. So if your gel polish clients are having any kind of damage, then these are like the 3 things you can totally look at first to see if you can fix that problem. So it's kind of a nice little roadmap. Mistake number 9, ignoring ventilation. Even cowboys in the West knew they needed a bandana to protect themselves from dust, says Shun. Why don't nail techs use the same common sense? Techs have multiple reasons why they don't ventilate properly. A ventilation system's too expensive, too loud, or too inconvenient, but it all comes down to one thing. They undervalue good air, and that's a mistake. Ensure good air quality with a source capture machine or an N95 dust mask. You deserve it, and so do your clients. Is this you? We're talking to you if you think opening up your door and turning on the ceiling fan constitutes good air quality. Well, it's true. You have to have fresh air inflow, even if it's from a cracked window, and you need to have some sort of dust removal going on from your breathing zone, whether that be a full source capture system or at least some dust extractor that's pulling the dust out of right here, especially if you use an e-file, you're kicking dust up all over the place. All that dust you see laying all over in your salon on every surface, that's dust that's left floating around in the air until it settles somewhere, which means if it settles somewhere, it might just settle in your lungs. So that's all true. And I had a show where I talked about, if you can afford the one that works, it's definitely the best one to get. But not everybody has $800 right now, and they need something, which is better than nothing. So an N95 dust mask for the dust, and they'll last for a couple weeks for you wearing it, especially if you don't put lipstick on underneath. And but only an N95 dust mask, not those little paper surgical ones. They don't do anything. And I'll put the link on again, or it's on the Nails Over Coffee Facebook page, but for the TheraPure $129 small area air system that does actually take the chemical out of the air for an affordable price until you can buy one of the big super whamma jammas. I have one and it works really well, at least so the non-nail tech people around me say. So, mistake number 10, no continuing education. Shun has noticed 2 current problems in the nail industry. Veterans who fail to stay educated and who then pass incorrect information to new techs, and new techs who focus only on nail art. And while he readily admits some techs are very well educated, as a whole, he finds nail techs are less educated than they were 10 years ago. We are responsible for our knowledge. School provides a way to acquire a legal license and a rudimentary understanding of nail applications, but it does not provide the majority of what nail techs need to know. Shun says when techs do seek out education, they often gravitate towards skill classes, such as nail art, or product knowledge in business classes, but it's technical classes that would benefit them the most. Technical classes teach how a product works and how to avoid damage. Though Shun teaches technical classes, he admits that this type of class is hard to find and rarely offered. And so then there's some lists of some different people who do. It says, is this you? When was the last time you sat through a class and better understood the process of what you're doing? If you were wearing a tube top or had feathered hair, we're talking to you. Which I think is hilarious. So that's the end. And on the note of continuing education, University of Nails is going to do some non-product specific education. If you don't have a copy of Product Chemistry, Doug's Shun's Anatomy and Product Chemistry nail book, if you don't have a copy of that, it's definitely one you need to put some of your education money into buying this year. And because that talks a lot about how we use what we do. And same thing with the face-to-face with Doug Shun. It's $6.95 a month, and it gives you the science side of what we're doing, so that you can know all the rules, and then you can understand why you're told to do what you're told to do. So that's the 10 mistakes nail techs make, and I wanted to make sure I got that out there so I can get this show out on the boards and maybe increase the spread of this article to people who don't necessarily read Nails magazine regularly, and so that maybe we can start 2016 as the year of the educated nail tech and the refinement of the nail industry. I remember that years ago, 2000, Tammy Taylor did the Millennium Seminar and talked about exactly what was going to go on in the nail industry in the new millennium. And she was right, and it has. And now we're starting to see it come down on the other side of that and see everything sort out. So one nail tech world, let's all come together and make 2016 the best for everybody. So before I sign off, I need to give an 8. Speaking of Tammy Taylor, so there's my 8 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for Braden. 8 days left on Braden from Nail Talk Radio's 30 for 30. So I'm going to take my picture with my 8 sign and post that on Braden's wall. But, you know, countdown of 8 days left to the Dirty 30, Braden. All right. So that's it for Nails Over Coffee for Christmas Eve. I hope you have a very merry holiday, however you celebrate. If you haven't celebrated already with Hanukkah and everything. And I will see you guys on Monday, the 28th. So have a good one from around the world, nail techs around the world. Bye. Happy holidays.